When he came down and told us in the morning that he had written a letter excoriating or criticizing black stuff. And of course we were all very shocked and afraid that it would have a bad reaction on Justice Jackson. But he was bitterly disappointed that he didn't get the appointment as Chief Justice. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. What did he say to you? Do you recall? Was there what was the mood in the room?
Jackson, Justice Jackson made his statement to us, I think, to relieve the sense of alarm that he knew we were going to feel.
Right.
When this came out, he knew that we were not going to be happy with it, and we weren't, of course. But he explained his position, and I felt I had to make the statement. We all looked at each other askance and went our way. That was about it.
But you could sense real frustration.
Well, we were, no, not frustration, the sense that maybe our chief had not done a thing that in the long run was best for his career. That's what we all
what?
That maybe he had allowed his disappointment and perhaps his anger to get the best of it.
It would be real nice.
I'm an admirer of Lucious Clay. I think he represented our country very effectively in Berlin, and he did stand up to the Russians in the Allied Control Council. Of course, ultimately, the Russians pulled out. But I'll tell you an interesting story about the Allied Control Council. One day we had, you know, the way it operated. We had various subcommittees of the Allied Control Council. We had one on economics and so on. And a bill would originate and go through these different sub-units depending upon what the subject was. But they all had to pass the legal committee. But we, you know, at the end, we had the last shot at it before it went to the council. So one day an issue came before a bill was introduced to permit the Salvation Army to reestablish its activities in Germany, in the various zones of Germany. So there wasn't any question about this. It came to the legal committee, and we were all ready to approve it. The Russians said no, they wouldn't allow it. Well, why? Well, they didn't want to discuss it. So they voted it down, and it couldn't get to the Allied Control Council. So at the conclusion of the meeting, as we were all walking out, I noticed that one of the Soviet representatives had a copy of the encyclopedia under his arm. I said, what is that? And he said, it's an encyclopedia. I said, well, would you mind translating what it says about the Salvation Army? So he opens the encyclopedia and he reads the Salvation Army, religious charitable organization founded in 1880 by, I forget his name now, and so on. And Trump goes, and then at the very bottom it says, this agency is deemed contrary to proletarian objectives. So that was the explanation of why the Russians just voted down the admission of the Salvation Army into occupied Germany.
What was your role there in Berlin?
Well, I was in charge of the legal advice branch of the military government. And my primary responsibility was maintaining contact with our legal officers in the field. And in fact, it's kind of interesting that I was the first one in the headquarters in Berlin to learn of the Russian blockade of Berlin. And the way it happened was that we had arranged for a meeting of our legal officers in Berlin on a Friday afternoon. And so on a weekend, anyway, they were coming in on Friday. And I got a telephone call from our man from Frankfurt, Frank Potter, and Frank said, "I'm here at Helmstedt," and he said, "We're coming in on the train, and the Russians won't let us in." So I said, "Well, I don't know about this. I'll go and talk to General Gailey." General Gailey was the second in command to what's his name? Anyway, so I'll talk to Gailey's office. So I went down and talked to, gave the word to Gailey, and I said, our people are down there at Helmstedt, and the Russians have stopped the train and won't let it come in. So Gailey told me to tell them that they should go ahead and oh, I know what it was. They stopped them on the highway. That was it. So Gailey's office said, Gailey said to me, "Tell them to come in on the train." That was the answer. So I got on the telephone, called them up, and told them to get on the train and come on in that way. Well, they got on the train got about 200 yards inside the Soviet-occupied territory, and it was stopped. And that was the beginning of the Berlin blockade.
What was the immediate reaction? This was happening, and then the Allied Control Council must have been, they had no forewarning that this was happening.
No forewarning. That was the first way we found out about it. That was it. They couldn't come in.
Yeah.
Because they had blocked the highway and they blocked the train, so there's no way you could get in, except by air.
What a major story that turned out to be.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of all that, Whitney. Does that amaze you, the number of historical events you were a part of?
You don't think about it at the time. You know, it isn't. It's just another problem to deal with. And then there was Russians. The thing that really irritated us was they started firing off their artillery at night. And they'd start at 12 o'clock, bang, 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 keep everybody awake, you know. It's just kid stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Unnerved.
They must have been shocked when the U.S. Air Force started flying supplies in. They probably thought they couldn't do it.
Oh, that was the most marvelous thing, that airlift. You can't believe it. I've been to homes German homes in Berlin at the time, and it wasn't only food, but it was fuel. They had no fuel at all. And so they had to fly in coal. These guys brought all this coal and distributed it to the home. You go to a German house, the only room that would have any heat would be the living room, say, where they had a fireplace. They'd be burning a few sticks of wood and their lumps of coal, and that's it.